Welcome to Challenging the Norm, his and hers look at life and business, hosted by Paul Snell and Lindsay Burden. This podcast is designed for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and business owners redefining success on their terms. Each episode dives into the topics that truly matter, offering a blend of candid discussion, practical insights, all delivered with a sense of humour. We reality check the latest business trends while offering a fresh perspective that challenges conventional thinking. Paul partners with business leaders, leveraging cutting-edge neuroscience to demonstrate how people-centered strategies drive transformational success. While Lindsay brings her unique approach to business coaching, empowering ambitious business owners to achieve financial abundance and a lifestyle rich in time and joy, all without compromising what matters most. Together, we are challenging the norm. So grab a coffee or your beverage of choice and join us as we explore the art of creating a life and business you love.
Hi, Lindsay. Next episode. Now we've had our preamble on this, haven't we?
I'm a bit worried about today's.
Yeah, I have to say. But before we go, are you? How's things with you? I haven't asked. Is it all
I'm
good?
really good. Well, I was really good because we had a bit of sunshine. It's gone a bit hazy now, but what a beautiful weekend. I walked into town with my husband yesterday because I could, and we could. We didn't have to worry about anyone else. It's really lovely to walk into Salisbury, really lovely to walk around and just chat and sit and have a coffee. And,
Yeah,
I don't know, it was just a really nice thing to do.
and may there be many more. I don't know if we're going to get them for the next few days, but may there be many more.
There we
So big subject. In fact, we've already had a chat on this and said this may go more than one episode. We don't know yet.
We don't
We'll
know.
see where it goes. But we've been talking about this idea of starting and growing a business. And I'm going to try and put some context on that in my own way, because you might have a different take on that context. We've been talking about how, well, certainly I have, the challenges around how it can be perceived as being so easy, so quick, so seamless to start and grow a business, that why isn't everybody doing it? And I'm wrestling with this. In fact, I'm not wrestling. I'm wrestling to be calm and collected about it is what I'm doing. Um, the reality to starting a business is challenging at best. And not for 1 minute would I say that you shouldn't do that. But what I am saying is, let's not kid ourselves. You and I have been around the block a bit when it comes to that type of thing, but I have not seen in any of my clients or my experience over the years anyone sit there and go, do you know what, Paul? It took me a day and I've got the business. It's going great. Got great income. Nobody. And yet, there is so much noise around the world on my favorite thing, social media, telling us just how easy it can be.
Yes. I mean, there's lots of things that have been getting my goat the last few weeks. And most of those have come from social media. But there is no but. I hear what you are saying. And my fear is that it sets an expectation that you can start a business tomorrow and you will replace your salary if you're leaving a job, or you will hit five figures by doing X, Y, and Z, and it will happen fast. And the reality of that, or the reality is, it doesn't happen fast. And you do have to do the work. Now, my caveat to that is it's about doing the right work. Otherwise, you'll just become a busy fool and won't make any progress. But I think it's easy to become a busy fool because we're bombarded with you must do this, you must follow that, and you can do this. And then before you know it, everything will be wonderful. And you'll be working 3 days a week and you'll be going on 5-star holidays and your children will be happy forever. I can assure you it's not like that. And I think there is some other challenges at the moment, and that is these young influencers who are often behind these messages
Mm.
that it can be easy. And they don't have the same responsibilities as those of us at the other end of the age scale. And that for me, that in itself upsets me in many ways. Because, I mean, you and I talk about this all the time. We are individuals. Our responsibilities are different. We do not have the same 24 hours in the day. And it just feels that if you're being given this view of something that is achievable, that is possible, and look at me with my fast car and my, designer clothing, if they're I was going to say 23, but anyone really between that, those 20s and 30s, if you don't have children, for example, and it doesn't have to be children, just happens Paul and I, you and I have children. If you it's just different.
It is wholly different. Certainly in that, I've said to you before, and the answer is obviously, would I do things differently if I wasn't married or had kids? Would I do things differently? And the answer is of course, because we have different responsibilities at different points in life and different situations.
Yeah.
The fundamentals here for me is about the message, right? So you and I can sit here and say, well, between us, we have kids at different ages, ranging from quite young to in their 30s. And in that scale, in that scope of people, I can see just how many are directly influenced by stuff that isn't necessarily true, intended to be true, or of any value. And one of the things that I mentioned in our preamble, our famous preambles that we really should do outtakes from, is the point that if all if the purpose behind business social media, call it LinkedIn if you like,
Yeah.
is to have some form of ability to have value and to have a business opportunity. Sadly, what I'm seeing more of is it's more about how viral my post can go. So the worrying part in that is it stops being primarily about value, in other words, how to's and what you could do and how that might look. It becomes, here's a shocking statement for you. I love the point when it goes things like 3 things you've never heard about being super successful. Really? So all you want me to do is click on that to find out what these incredible 3 things are, and they're the same 3 things everybody talks about, right? So I think there's and I like to get down to societal and cultural issues because I think it drives so much. We don't think about that. You know, I spend more time in my work talking about people don't realize they don't think about. It all comes from their subconscious, but we have a tendency to build up a response based on the expectation of a social norm. In other words, if I were to ask my 17-year-old about business success, he'll tell me about all these influencers, all these YouTubers, all these
Yeah.
people earning millions of pounds by being an influencer. And it's a bit like back in the day when I had my eldest son was very young. He said, "Dad, I want to be a professional footballer."
Yeah.
And I said, "Great. Do you know what the odds are of that?" No, that's not. I didn't say that to him at that point. But the reality is, the odds are infinitesimally small to become a professional footballer in the way that we understand them today with their vast salaries and profile. It's infinitesimally small. So you're playing this thing that goes, let me tell you at a young age what you could have, and it's easy. You know, the amount of people I see on social media that go, you can sleep for 9 hours a day, eat all these healthy foods, and be active and not stressed. And I go, hang on a second, how are you achieving that? How are you? Oh, you're achieving it because you're being an influencer who gets paid to say things that are attractive and compelling on social media. What you're not is someone who sits at the back of looking at a computer screen going, how do I start my business? Where do I go? What does it mean? How long is it going to take?
Yeah. It's really interesting, and this really hasn't got much to do with business, but bear with me. I like Instagram. I like to watch the videos and etc. And if I'm looking for a way to switch off, that's possibly where I'm going to be. What I have noticed is, and obviously I'm a particular age, and the algorithm is working at this, is that Collagen is the answer to all my skin problems, my hair problems, my age problems. Now, I probably have stopped and read one post. And now, every time I log in, there is something about collagen. But what's got my goat is that it is a different celebrity telling me which collagen. This one is the best because I took it for 3 days and look at me. I took this one for a week. It is celebrities again and again. It is endorsed. And therefore, there are people out there going, I need that. Now, I haven't looked at the price of this stuff because, quite honestly, once I'd realized it was, oh, here's another one and another one, I lost interest because that's the way I roll. But that's the challenge. We talk about the algorithm.
Yeah.
This is this, it can all change. It can all happen. You only do this. You just need to take these gummies 3 times a day. Just like, where are we in this world at the moment in relation to our ability to make wise choices? It's almost impossible because
Mm.
we're not getting the information that we need. Or even when you search, there's a young guy I network with, and I often talk in this network about habits for success, etc. And I say, what good habits and bad habits. And he was telling us in one particular breakout room that he'd recognized a bad habit was scrolling social media to find out more about health and well-being, how to be healthier, how to be fitter. And it was just more and more and more, and he was getting more and more confused. So he decided that he would do a course in this topic so he could learn about it properly. So every time he goes, I need to scroll social media, he goes and does some of his course, which he's nearly finished. Now, he works with websites and stuff. It's not even in his remit, but he recognized that that habit was being fed, that
Yeah.
that habit, he wasn't getting any of the answers he wanted, so he had to do something more
Yeah.
positive, and which I absolutely admire him for. That's the problem, isn't it? We are just fed constantly to the point where we no longer can make a decision.
I mean, fantastic point. Fantastic. Because I'm sitting here listening to you thinking, wow.
Are you thinking I need some collagen? Where do I get some from?
No, I'm way past collagen, let me tell you. No, I'm sitting here thinking, are we sleepwalking into this world now?
Yeah.
Is this what it's like? Do we just accept? Because from a psychological perspective, the more you feed your brain with a reinforced message, the more it puts it into your subconscious. It puts it into that bit that goes where it goes first to make a decision. So are we sleepwalking into having a mindset that just accepts this stuff?
Yeah, I think
It's
we
a
might.
big, massive question. I have to say, we're sitting here and we chew on things, but this is a big one.
It is. And what's really, I think, interesting about this whole sort of the collagen thing, and because I'm a cynic through and through, and maybe that's age. Well, I think we have discussed this before, Paul. You and I are at the age now where we can't be bothered with the bullshit, quite
There you
honestly.
go.
So I was looking at, and I'm looking at these celebrities, some who I really like. Don't get me wrong. Some of them I've followed for years and I really like them. But I'm like, do you know what? It's not just taking 3 gummy bears, is it? You've got a hairdresser who's done your hair today. You've got a makeup artist. You might even have a chef at home that prepares beautifully nutritious meals. Yes, you may or may not have children, but actually your responsibilities are different from mine. Your circumstances are different from mine. And that applies to anything, not just the collagen story. That applies to anything.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's very subjective. But I do think there's some universal truths in this. If we loop back to this idea of business is easy, I think there's some universal truths. I don't think there's anything that is easy about starting a business because there are things you have to do that you will likely have not done before,
Yeah.
that you won't necessarily have the experience. You might have some knowledge, right? You could take a course, you might have some knowledge, but you won't have the experience of doing that before. And you'll also realize a few things. Almost inevitably, it's not what you thought it would be
Mm.
because you don't know what you don't know.
And do you know
So,
what I think they realise first? I I think they realize it's not as easy as they thought.
Oh yeah, of course. Always, always. But it quickly follows with this isn't what I signed up for. It quickly follows with, oh, this is taking a lot longer. Can I afford to do this?
Yeah.
So whatever, wherever you want to go with the thought processes, it ends up being harder than you thought it would be. And
Yeah.
it's not quite as glamorous and easy as you see on social media. Now, I'm going to balance that and say the reality to having your own business is it does give you flexibility. It's a flexibility that you choose. It's not, well, immediately you just don't have to work lunchtimes or you don't have to work in the morning so you can take the kids to school. I get it's not as straightforward as that. But what it does do is give you the ability to be flexible.
Yeah. And I'm smiling because I agree with I think being an entrepreneur, a business owner, starting a business, it is an incredible journey and I don't regret it.
Yeah.
There have been moments when I've regretted it, but I don't regret it. And I started my business for flexibility because
Mm.
I wanted to be able to run my business around small children.
Yeah.
Well, here's the truth of that. That is nigh on impossible unless you can afford lots of childcare and unless you can afford a cleaner and someone to do the cooking. And actually, the damage I did and the guilt that I created for myself in those early days still, it stays with me. And I still have days when my kids say, "You're always at your desk." Um, they're older now. I'm like, "Well, you don't need me. Let me know when you need me." But that whole thing around you want flexibility, you can create it as long as you're honest with yourself. Well, one, I would say get the boundaries in place and
Yeah.
stick to them and be
Big
rigid
one.
around them.
Yeah.
Don't say to yourself, well, if I take the kids to school in the morning and I pick them up, I can always do the hours later because that was me. And I worked till 2, 3 every morning and I was exhausted when I got up. It was a circle then, and it took me years, not months, years to change that cycle. And
Yeah.
that was not a good place to be in. It was not good for my marriage. It was not good for my relationship with my kids. So, boundaries, stick to them, be realistic in them,
Mhm.
and be okay. And we've said this before, Paul, be okay with it taking longer. But that taking longer, you'll only know if you know what success looks and feels like. Because if you're going after six figures, and you don't have the time, you don't have the capacity, you perhaps don't have a little bit of money to invest because it does make it easier. If you're learning on the fly and doing all of that, which is a great way, by the way, people, do not think that you need all your ducks in a row, beautifully dressed and knowing everything. You don't. Throwing yourself into business is how we learn, it is how we grow, it is the beauty of it, it is the magic of it. But you've got to know where you're going and you've got to know how long, pretty much how long that's going to take. And if you go, well, actually, I think I can do that in 5 years. If you've got kids, I'd add another five.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Of course, I
I
agree
like
with
to have
that.
one.
But the point, the really good point is that if you set yourself, it's that classic, isn't it? If you are, I don't know, building an extension on your house, you price it up, you have a budget, well, you're going to need to add another 20% on because I can
Yeah,
promise you there's things you've forgotten or that
yeah,
won't go to plan.
yeah,
It's the same with business when you budget time and money. I've worked with people in the past who have said to me, Paul, I've got 3 months of money put aside, so I've got to make this work and produce a salary for me at this level in 3 months. I am very, very realistic with them
mm,
because honestly, that's a big, tough call, even if it's achievable. So don't, I've shared stories with you in the past, very sad. Well, I think they're sad when I've been in a hall getting some training with a young mum who's single mum, and she's paid £50 to do that training because they told her that would be the route for her ability to earn an income as well as look after these kids because she's a single mum. The young kid, she needs flexibility, and she stood there with her last £50, and that devastates me because I don't believe. I think that's unscrupulous. I think it's wrong. I think it's deceitful, and it will end up causing that person an awful lot of pain when they part with that last £50.
yeah. It's really interesting, sort of alongside of that, slightly different, is I have worked with clients who actually had I got one particular in mind, a really incredible business. Year one, she was getting it set up, da da da. When she, working with me, we looked at pricing, we looked at modeling and everything else, and it was starting to happen. It was starting to work for her. And she sat down and she was really honest. She said, "This is not creating the income that I need, that I want, and it's not the income I had when I was employed." So she went back to being employed,
Mm.
and that is okay.
Yes.
It's okay to try it and come out the other side and go, do you know what? This is not for me.
Yeah.
Because starting a business, I think what we're trying to say is it's not for the faint-hearted.
No, I agreed. It's not for the faint-hearted, and there isn't a fixed. Because if I said to you, I'm going to try and ask you the question, Lindsay. If I said to you, Lindsay, how long on average does it take to start a business and get to a point where it's producing an income for you that you expected?
Oh,
How long is
that's a
it?
big question. Ask me in another 10 years.
Yeah. So the answer is you can't really answer
You
that.
can't.
And there is no the point I'm making is there's no fixed template. People tell you follow these steps to get a successful business. There is no fixed template. Look, it's going to come down to your character. It's going to be tough, right? And you made such a good point. And I'll add to that point and go, for some people that the initial journey proves to them that entrepreneurship isn't for them. And going back to a job is perfectly okay. And I also think, by the way, when people get to a certain age in life, they might turn and go, I'm now tired of what it takes to be my own boss. I'm
Yeah.
just going to pick up a small part-time job. That's okay too.
Yeah.
Because we mustn't lose sight of why we start a business. We don't start a business just because well, we shouldn't if it's a whim. We should be sitting there going, why do I really want to do this? What is it about being a business owner? And you can define what that might be to you, but you need to define it. But if you're a one man business like me, or maybe like you, where we sit there going, okay, to be a business owner is about flexibility, about choices. Not always easy choices, not always the choices you want, right? But there's still choices to be made there. It's about the ability to feel a sense of self-fulfillment. These are things that occur to me, but it'll be different for other people. And
Yeah.
I think we've got to be really clear here. We're not saying whatever you do, you've got to give this a try once in your life. I've heard that before as well, by the way. It's got to take time, really sit down, talk it through with someone. I will add, probably not the ones that panic because you're thinking about starting a business. Talk it through with people that have been there, that are doing it. Just get the right people around you. But I think it's really important that you spend loads of time making sure this is right for you and talk to people about the experience of being a business owner because it's just not always, bright and beautiful. There are times when it's tough. And as you said, Lindsay, I wouldn't change anything that I've done. I
No.
wouldn't. I love what I do and I love the life it gives me. But the reality is, there's no fixed template. I can't, and neither can you, Lindsay, because I've asked you the question, can tell you how long it's going to take for you to get a successful business. I don't know.
No, and there are so many parts to that, aren't there? Because we can't tell anyone how long it will take because your business might be bricks and mortar, it might be in tourism. It
Mm.
depends what sector it's in, it depends what model it is. There's 101 things and probably another 101 things that will influence and impact your ability to go from ground zero to a
Yeah.
successful business. And there will be points along the way where you go, do I want to grow now? So it's not even those challenges at the very beginning. It's cyclical because there'll always be another point in the journey where you go, okay, I'm at this point now and it feels good, but if I want to take it to the next income level, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What do I need to do? Who do I need to become to make that happen? Who do I need around me? So I think that's important to say as well that you won't, that it's not going to be easy at the start, and there's going to be other points in your journey when it's not going to be easy. And we're saying, we're kind of contradicting ourselves in many ways because we're saying it's great, we love it, we wouldn't change it for the world, but it's not easy. So you've got to think about it and you've got to have the right people around you. I think there are some ways where you can make it easier. And for me, it's absolutely networking without any doubt in my mind, because they are the people that are there for me. They're the people that I can pick up the phone and ask a question. They go, okay, Lindsay, you need to do this, or why are you doing that? And they are my support mechanism. They are the ones that later on have helped me build my business. And I haven't networked for years. Now, if you're just starting out, paying in, buying into a networking group
Mm.
might feel like a stretch too far. Find your accountability partners,
Yeah.
find your business owners that you can sit down with. And I had a friend that did that years and years ago. There were about three or four of them. They were at the same sort of level, and they just came together once a month and just had that sort of mastermind session. So get the support around you in any shape or form. And my other top tip for you at that beginning of that journey, your partner is about as much use as the cat or the dog, as is anybody who loves you,
Yeah.
because they want you to be safe. And they won't necessarily be the ones to help you make those decisions that that are the risks. We have to take risk in business.
Yeah.
Everything we do is a risk.
Yeah.
So we
It,
have to have those people around us that will help us make good decisions around good risk. And your partner is as much use as the cat or dog.
yeah.
Other pets are available.
It's so true. It's so true. And I love that what we're doing here with this subject is we're kicking off with how does it all start? We're kicking off with the fact that the statement is quite simple. It's not as easy as you think it is. But we are kicking off with let's start from scratch. What does it mean? What does it mean to you? Because often, Lindsay, you talk about, having a business in the lifestyle that you want to have and the time that you have, and to have all that as a value. You said we are contradicting ourselves. I don't think we are. I think what we're doing is we are saying it is a great thing to do despite all of these
I
things.
like that.
And we would be advocates, right? We've got our own businesses, so I hope we'll be advocates.
Yeah.
We're advocates of that, but I think our experience says there's the despite bit, despite the hard work, despite the challenges, despite the setbacks, but it's still a reality that if you sit down and decide what does life look like for you, what do you want, right? How does life fit for you when it comes to being with your kids, looking after your kids, whatever it might be. What does life look like for you? What will it look like for you? Because you could do that analysis and go, it's not for me.
Yeah.
A classic example, Lindsay, is it's very, very difficult to get a mortgage if you're an independent, self-employed
Yeah.
person or a limited company. It will take you a number of years of good figures for a bank to want to give you a mortgage. If that's challenging for you, if that's going to be problematic over the next few years, it's not for you.
Yeah. I actually guided someone back to not
Mm,
doing that, not continuing in the way that they were and going to get a job. I said,
yeah,
if they were young, if
mm.
you want a mortgage, go and get a job
Yeah, every time, every time.
and have that
And
security of being able to pay that mortgage.
yeah, but then there's also a balance that goes starting a business isn't just for the young.
No.
So you can have your time. If you think if you that's why I'm saying sit down and plan what does life look like for you. Because if life is, well, actually, right now I want a mortgage so I can buy a house and get comfortable with the payments, overpay, whatever, whatever, whatever. But by the time I'm 35, it'll be paid off. Therefore, it might be that you are looking for a point in your life where entrepreneurship might be right for you. Not saying it will, not saying it won't, but the point I'm making is that the time has to be right for the life that you want to live. And as you quite rightly pointed out, if for that person having a house, getting a mortgage, getting on the property ladder was the right thing to do, being an entrepreneur probably was the wrong point.
And I think and it's really hard. I wish we could give some more finite
Yeah,
numbers and everything else. Because if I look back at my own journey, I mean, I started my business in my 40s when I had two small children because I'd stupidly had children very late in life. Um, and just remember, it'll be easier when they go to primary school. It didn't get easier. It'll be easier when they go to secondary school. It doesn't get easier. So it's understanding that you're almost making a decision based on here and now
Mm.
with that period, with quite a short period of time, because things can change. We
Yeah.
know things can change. Our health can change. It's not just about having children. So I think for me as well, yes, I agree with you. If you want a mortgage and, depending on where you are age-wise, it might be that actually getting that
Mm.
sorted first is a good way forward for you. We can't give enough scenarios really because there are thousands and thousands,
Yeah.
infinite numbers probably.
Yeah.
But what I will say is don't wait
Mm.
because there is not, if it's in you and you feel it and there is something calling you, start asking some questions, start speaking to people that have started businesses. Do not put it off.
I would agree. I would absolutely agree about beginning the process of understanding what that might look like.
Mm.
So if you're sitting there and you feel this massive urge because you've, I don't know, created a widget or you've got a great idea, doesn't really matter. I think the point, and maybe this is for this episode, this point, is do your due diligence. Work out what that looks like to the best of your ability by talking to people that have been there, that are still doing it, and the way you want to be. Don't, and this is looping back for me, my bit in this is please don't sit on social media and believe everything you see about how easy it is to kick this thing off the ground and get to where you want to be. Talk to people that are doing it. And you won't get to the Richard Bransons of this world, sadly. You are going to end up talking to people maybe like you and me, Lindsay.
Yeah.
But the very least, we can give a proper, clear understanding of what it took for us to be where we are today and what it meant to us and what we were looking for when we felt the urge to start a business. Because I think that research, and that's the reason I wouldn't rush it, the world isn't going to change in an instant. Take your time with this. But I think that bit is the best foundational work you can do before you press the button. You're absolutely right. There's no there. If you feel the urge, I'm all in. You don't wait for perfection. But whether you feel the urge or you don't feel the urge, either way, your groundwork has to be done.
I've got a question. I don't know where we are with time because this is a good one.
Running
It's,
out.
it's a great one. But if you, and I know hindsight is a great thing and all of that, la 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 la. But if you went back to the beginning, Paul,
Hmm.
what would you do differently? If you could do one thing differently, and I know we have to go through this journey for us to get here, so forget all that for a minute. But if you could do something differently, what would it be?
I would probably say talk to more people. I'm fortunate; things went well, but I navigated some tough stuff that I could have learned if I'd have spoken to right people, or no, if I could have spoken to more people. Again, being careful about your point about sometimes you just need to start. I get it, but I can think of some holes in my journey. Very early on for me, when I wanted to start coaching, I didn't want to have to write material. So I just went and joined an organization that supplied all that for you. Pay a fee, they send you the materials, they train you on it, they teach you on the sales and marketing. That was the wrong thing to do because I paid for something that was a cookie cutter that didn't fit me at all. And so therefore I learned some lessons. And I guess looking back, would I do things differently? I would have started at the same time I started. I would have still focused on what I wanted to do. That was the right thing for me to do. But I didn't talk to enough people. So what I had was a one-sided view of what coaching could be as a business and a career. And hand on heart, I think I probably should have been talking to more coaches that were where I wanted to be. What I ended up doing is talking to a coaching organization that could solve all my problems, apparently.
There you have it, people.
Yeah. So I think we can safely say we've dealt with the initial part of our point at the start of this podcast, which is talking about how tough things can be, and how perhaps you should start with these things. I think there's a lot more to come on this. I think we've only just begun to dig beneath the surface. I think there's more to say about what it is to be in business, what it is to succeed, what does success look like. I know you'd have a lot to say on that. So my thoughts, Lindsay, as we wrap this one up, is shall we do some more on this subject?
I think we should, because my mind is racing with all the things we could talk about. So yes, there is absolutely more to come.
Okay, let's do that. Let's wrap this one up because I know that time's upon us. Let's wrap this one up. It's been fab. There is so much more to say on this, and I shall rewatch this episode or re-listen to this episode to make my notes. But there's lots more to come. If you've listened to this and you've enjoyed it, please do like it. Please give us a review. Give us some feedback. We're always open to feedback. But on this occasion, we think there's lots more to say. We think it's a big topic for, particularly for our time, actually, with the amount of explosion of people saying how easy it is to do business. Let's put some balance in there, but with the balance that says this is not about don't do. This is about how you go about it.
I love it. Awesome work, Paul.
Good stuff, Lindsay. Till the next time.
Till next time.